Hey guys, Eckhart Slaughter here with another Star Wars Top 5 video, and earlier today I made a video about the 5 scariest droids in the Star Wars universe. Well, we're sticking with that theme, we're sticking with Star Wars Legends, and we're looking at the 5 largest droids that have ever appeared in the Star Wars Expanded Universe. I do just want to mention that often it will be the case that these droids will have only appeared in perhaps one source, maybe they're just mentioned, so often I won't know a whole lot about them and I may not even have a picture for them. So just try to keep that in mind as we go through this video. Also, I will admit that last week I posted a video called The Largest Droid in Star Wars Legends. Well, I've done more research and it turns out that yes, I was wrong. So I'll admit that now, and you can see where that droid places in the list as you watch the video. I will also say that I'm not counting any situations where droids controlled something larger than themselves. So when IG-88 controlled the Death Star, although he was arguably a new droid, I'm not counting that. Also, I'm not going to be considering the planet M478 in this video because it was cut content from Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2 and I just don't know anything about it. I also do just want to say that I don't consider this list to be completely authoritative. It's the 5 largest droids that I'm aware of. Alright, so number 5 is actually my favorite droid on the list. It's the Hunter-Killer Probot, sometimes known as the HK droid or the HK Probot. And the Probot is really just an upsized version of the standard Imperial probe droid. So instead of being a meter or two long, it's 150 meters tall. That's like skyscraper sized. The droids are often used as mobile command centers, as very large patrol ships, or just placed to guard an area. Interestingly, these droids could also be controlled directly like a starship, so if not properly protected, could be turned against the Empire, which is exactly what happened in the Dark Empire comic series. Alright, so number 4 is only slightly larger at 200 meters tall. It's the EVS construction droid. This droid was used by the Empire on its larger planets to basically create or tear down parts of cities, factories, whatever. It's kind of like a mobile, sentient construction site that's the size of a skyscraper. Of course, given that these are Imperial creations, they are fairly evil looking. They have 2 large legs, kind of a shell above them, and then smaller arms, making them look like some sort of beetle. Under their shell, they also have hundreds of smaller arms which can do more precise tasks if needed. On larger planets like Coruscant, these droids probably would have been operating 24/7, and they moved very slowly but at a very steady pace. They required minimal supervision and kind of worked on their own, though you can see at the top of their head there's a little pad where ships can land and workers can observe the machine to make sure it's operating correctly. So number 3 is the Silentium, and this is the race of machines that I spent a video talking about, which I'll link down in the description. I'm going to go very quickly over this one because I know a lot of you probably know how the Silentium work and have watched my other videos, but they're a race of machine beings from the Yuuzhan galaxy. They come in different sizes. Vuffi Ra, who was the friend of Lando Calrissian during the Lando Calrissian trilogy, was only a couple of meters long. On the other hand, as the Imperials found out, some of the larger Silentium could grow to be 50 plus kilometers in size. That's huge. I mean, about a third the size of the second Death Star, and quite a bit bigger than the previous entry on this list. Number 2 is a droid that I'd never actually heard of before until it was introduced to me by a couple of people in the comments of one of my other videos. The droid Kaloon was a planet-sized being that likely existed somewhere in the unknown regions. We know very little about this droid because it only appeared in one source, Trois Mini Scenario dans la Nuit de Temps. And this was a French role-playing adventure in a magazine, and I'm not sure whether it's canon or not, but I like the idea of the planet-sized droid, and I thought it'd be interesting to include it. Another thing that's interesting is that Kaloon apparently, and I've never actually read the source, introduces himself as the 102nd Exterminator, so perhaps there are 101 other of these droids, and maybe other ones somewhere in the galaxy or in other galaxies. Very interesting, but in my mind, not as interesting as the number 1 largest droid, the Abomino. The Abomino were a race of droid beings from the Yuuzhan galaxy, and unsurprisingly, they warred with the other droid race from the galaxy, the Silentium. The Abomino were interesting because their bodies were essentially bits of other droids all put together, and they were fueled by moisture and organic material. And really, there was no limit to the size that an Abomino could reach should it have sufficient material and moisture. This is what the new Essential Guide to Droids says about the Abomino. Possessed with a hunger for power and slaves, the Abomino grafted more machinery onto their bodies until some even became planet-sized monstrosities. Some Abomino experimented with fusing machinery to biological systems, while others built grotesque faces in mockery of the organic slaves who shoveled fuel into their boilers. And basically, the Abomino were so hungry and wanted to grow so much that they exterminated organic species on thousands of planets as they scoured for resources. And again, that's a quote from the new Essential Guide to Droids. The most famous of these droids was the Great Heat, who I've been showing in this video that I've been playing above my commentary. Obviously, he's pretty small compared to how large these droids could have gotten, but I think it's still pretty interesting to see just how kind of tacked together these machines are. But all in all, this race of droids was the largest, and really, I don't see an upper limit to the size, but I would guess that it was certainly above planet-sized. Anyways guys, that is the top 5 largest droids, at least the ones that I've found. Let me know down in the comments, as I'm sure you will, if I missed any. I haven't read every Star Wars storybook there is, and you know, there's so many cases where just a one-off publication will mention something and it will never be mentioned again. Also, of course, make sure to leave any ideas for future videos and let me know if you liked this or not. I tried to keep this one a bit shorter, so I'm wondering what you guys think of that. Anyways, thank you for watching. As always, may the Force be with you.